Hey everybody, I wanted to make a video today about the completion process. This is the primary tool that I've been using in emotional integration work, emotional presence work, working through resistance, a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about the last few months that I do in my life coaching practice. So what is the completion process? What is this thing that I keep talking about? And I wanted to talk about it in more detail so that people kind of understand more this very innovative and powerful modality for healing and integrating trauma. And of course, when we heal and integrate our trauma, we bring light into the dark places and we become more whole. We gain more clarity basically on who we are, what we want, what our purpose is, what we're doing here. There's a strengthening of the intuitive systems. There's a strengthening of the emotional guidance systems when we really stop resisting how we feel and we instead turn up the volume on how we really feel that we keep avoiding. And essentially, it's like what we resist will persist. And what we're resisting, in the external is usually a reflection of what's happening inside, right? So this is why I'm super passionate about the completion process. I've just watched it create so much profound and lasting change in my life and in the lives of my clients and my friends. Broad context of the completion process. Why the completion process at all? Like, why a system of, integrating and healing from trauma? We live in a traumatizing world. We live in a world where we are conditioned by, media outlets to think that things are always going wrong. There's this narrative that gets created that we're like under threat, under siege, all the time. There's like this macrocosmic thing, and then on a microcosmic level, like everyone wants the same things. We all want like love and money and prosperity and to be living our passion, to be fully creatively expressed, all these things. And trauma really gets in the way of it's like your conscious mind. You might have an intention for your life and you want to make this intention happen, and then your limbic system and your your nervous system, they don't believe you. They don't believe that it's possible because of things that happen in early childhood. And usually it's some form of abuse or neglect, emotionally, physically, sexually, mentally. And a lot of times, and this is the big, thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about, is that it comes from primary caregivers, mom and dad, grandparents, teachers, preachers, people who are right around us, particularly before we are 8 years old and able to rationally process what's going on. Because at 8 years old, the rational mind begins to develop. And before that, we're completely impressionable to our external environment. We really, really don't know that something bad happening to us means that there isn't, there's something wrong with us, and a lot of times that's our coping strategy to survive with the adults around us when we're super, super little, is like, if I make myself bad, then mom and dad still get to be the gods of my world, or whoever it is, teachers, preachers, like I said, to people who have a lot of power and control in your life and a lot of say when you're a little person, what does or doesn't get to happen. And, they're responsible for, food, clothing, and shelter for you. Like they're your gods. They control your reality. So being on their good side, is really important. And so if they're upset at you for something that happened, or if they're, shaming you for something, then you don't have, when you're that little, before 8 years old, you don't have the capacity to see, like, actually, my mom is just functioning on her trauma, or my dad is just functioning on his trauma, and this shit is ancestral, and like, we don't have that rational capacity when we're super little. So we make it mean something about ourselves or something bad about the world. And it lives in the unconscious mind because it's so long ago and so deep that, but like, again, these things happen before the rational capacity. And, it's even deeper if it's something like infantile trauma. Maybe you were weaned off the tit too early and you have this, constant craving and starvation in your life. Maybe you were, left with, left alone as an infant and you're really, really little. And there's just this, sort of, you know, and if you look at it from like someone like Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is a really interesting book about how we get addicted to certain emotions and certain brain chemistry, you know, paradigms inside ourselves, that we can be, you know, you could be addicted to shame and fear and anxiety because you're so used to the way that those chemicals feel because of the traumatic things that happened when you were little. And a lot of people in that community who really like doing, you know, Joe Dispenza's stuff, and, you know, um, I find that there's not quite enough of an awareness of the body mind. It's to me, it's very masculine. It's very like, you know, mind controls the body, period. That's it. And for me, coming from integrating the divine feminine and coming from a more embodied perspective, I don't always agree that that the mind trumps the body, like, at all. In fact, I usually think the opposite. But neuroscience is powerful. We've got a lot of work to do, guys. You know, essentially, we've really got to, we've got to heal the mind, we've got to heal the body, we've got to heal the emotional body. You know, like, to really, I believe, you know, why I do this work and why I'm, you know, make these videos and do this channel and stuff, is I really believe that we've got to become more aware of what's going on, what has been passed down through, you know, our family systems particularly, and our, you know, just sociocultural, you know, conditioning. If we really want to be the people who break the cycle, if we want to be the people who create a new paradigm, if we want to be the people who, you know, help legislate, you know, waking up to, you know, healing this earth and healing ourselves, then there is a lot of work to do. We've got to address all these different things. So what I find, though, with clients, it's like, if you have mental blocks about something, or, oh, it's like limiting core beliefs, and a lot of people in the coaching world are like, yeah, like, we'll just change the story. You just need a new story. Meanwhile, your limbic system and your nervous system is like, fuck no. I'm not going to run that story. Like, I just don't even believe that, like, I am an prosperous, abundant creature of love and light, and, like, I deserve $1 million, like, or whatever, like, manifestation shit people do. It's like, it doesn't, that positive focus works insofar as your deeper nervous systems and limbic systems believe that shit is actually a possibility. And if you have been traumatized, those systems don't think that it's real. You know, it's like, and so how do you work out, you know, the stuff that is, like, really truly deeply in the way of you having what you want? And that's what I'm here for with the completion process, kind of framing it in the context of coaching. And it's been so incredible to watch the way that people have become more whole, like my clients, over the 6-week period of time, through a lot of emotional presence work. This is Teal Swan's creation, and I trained with her in Costa Rica last summer, and it was one of the most beautiful, powerful experiences of my life, including the kind of integration work that I did after the training with one of my soul sisters now, who I met in the training. It was really, really just applying a lot of what we had learned and just, like, doing it steadily every day. It was one of the most super powerful things to hear Teal Swan in the training say, I want you guys to try on this lens for the week. And if you don't like it or you don't agree afterwards, you know, put the lens down. People say she's like a cult leader. She's, like, totally, like, not. And it was like, she was, you know, like, just, I want you to try this on and, like, try seeing this from this perspective. And if it works for you, cool. And if not, no worries. So the lens was that it's never what's wrong with me. It's always what happened. And it's always the question we need to be asking ourselves, not pathologizing, not diagnosing, not looking at ourselves as damaged or defective, not looking at ourselves as, you know, disordered. So someone comes in and they're like, this thing happened, I'm super triggered, I'm in a really dark place, I'm having this anxiety. And so whatever it is, you know, I'm really angry about something. Usually it's a darker emotion that we start with. It doesn't have to be, but usually that's where people are at when they want to utilize the completion process, or when they want coaching in the style that I do. So the completion process starts with emotional vipassana. You have a trigger about something. You're like, oh my God, I just, like, I noticed that when my partner is, like, talking to me about money, that I get really upset and I start to get defensive. And then, so, like, say that's a scenario, right? I'm like, completion process, right? So it's like, okay, close your eyes, feel into where is that anxiety in your body? Where do you feel that in your body? And we start with body awareness, right? And then we find it. So say it's like, oh, I feel it right in my solar plexus. So what we do is we say to that solar plexus anxiety feeling, I'm totally here with you, as if it's like a part of us, as if that anxiety, that feeling itself in the body is its own personality, as is its own like fragment of the psyche, which it is. This is the lens that I tried on, and I have not taken this shit off because I keep watching it fucking help people so much. So, all right. So you say to this anxiety, I'm totally here with you. It's completely okay for you to be here. It's completely okay for you to feel this way. Because usually when we feel an emotion that is counterintuitive, that doesn't have anything to do with like what we want to manifest and the vibration of what we want to manifest. We're like, oh, well, I'm feeling anxiety, but like, quick, gotta go back to gratitude. Quick, gotta go back to like, no, what am I? I am an endless being of love and light, and like, I am a generous, prosperous, like just, no. Talk to the anxiety. Shadow worker here. Talk to the anxiety. I'm totally here with you. You're allowed to be here. This is when we stop abandoning ourselves and start getting really present and start allowing the triggered feeling to be there. And we just spend a lot of time with it. What color is it? What shape is it? What does it look like? You're just keeping your eyes closed if you're going through this. And you really keep validating the emotion. You keep validating. And then you spread that feeling through your body. Almost like I say, you spread it through your body, or I like to say you're climbing into it. Like you're fully embodying the perspective of this anxiety, because it's a completely legitimate perspective. It's there. It's happening in the body, whether we like it or not. So we might as well go into it like little shadow walker detectives. Like, what are you? And like, how can I bring the light of consciousness more to you? And so this is what we're doing. We're turning up the volume on the feeling. So turning up the light of consciousness on what that feels like. So then it starts to be like, well, all anxiety, right, is like unprocessed emotion. So you go into the anxiety, and then usually there's some kind of like, you kind of just stay with it, and it's like there's this integration happening because you're focusing so much, and you're allowing, and you're holding space for, and you're saying yes, please be here, take over my body. And then it happens, and then usually there's some kind of emotional peak. And when there's an emotional peak, you want to really let those emotions be felt fully, and then ask yourself, and ask this part of you, when was the first time I felt this way? And what tends to happen is a memory from early childhood, or maybe it's adolescence. At first, sometimes you'll get memories, or sometimes maybe something that happened in your 20s, or what, like some when was the first time I felt this way? And you really let the feeling guide your vision. So this is a process that's led by the body mind. It's led by the nervous system. It's led by the emotional body. Dropping into it and then allowing it to show you, oh my gosh, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm in a crib. I don't know why, but this time when I was 7 and this thing happened with my dad, or whatever, and you're back in it, and then it's about stepping into that child's perspective fully, or that adolescent's perspective, and then feeling what that adolescent is feeling, and then asking the adolescent, when was the first time you felt like this? So it's all this sort of like mind maze walking through the emotional body, but we're really choosing and focusing, and it's all with closed eyes. It's very similar to like an ayahuasca journey in a lot of ways. I mean, she really shows you what is happening in your body and really makes you focus on it, because she's so intense that it's like you don't really have a choice. You've got to just kind of surrender and trust the medicine. And the completion process is a lot like this. So then, when it's about embodying that perspective, letting the feeling peak of what that kid is feeling inside you in this memory that has not gone anywhere, because you left your body when this traumatic memory happened in the past, because you weren't able to feel fully, and so we dissociated. And this is another tenet of the completion process. It's not that PTSD causes dissociation, it's that dissociation causes the PTSD. So you're in this feedback loop of like, this keeps happening to me, this keeps happening to me, this keeps happening to me. Why? Because when I was really little, this happened and it wasn't safe to fully process that experience. Again, whatever the abuse situation is, or a lot of times it's emotional abuse. We get shamed. Our parents got shamed by their parents, and their parents got shamed. We got shamed. We got scapegoated. We got gaslit. We got told that our perspective wasn't real. We got told that there was something bad and wrong about us. There was and we made it mean things, which is why we're so blocked in adulthood, right? So it's about embodying and going into that child perspective when the physical and emotional feeling shows you where that memory is, hopping in there, letting yourself feel it fully as you've been validating, because guess what? This anxiety was actually a 7-year-old that's been trying to get your attention and fucking your shit up with triggering people, places, and things and situations, so that you come back to this original moment of fragmentation and heal it and bring it back and in and down and through. And once you feel the child perspective, you then enter the scene as the adult. You're just zeroing in on what it is, fully experiencing it in your body and in your emotional body. And then you picture yourself walking in to see this child. So you kind of step out of the child perspective and into the adult perspective. It's a bit like, what is this, like voice dialogue, where you kind of are, but it's all happening inside your own head. And you enter the scene as the adult and do whatever it is the child needs to meet their needs. And that process is really powerful, because then the child recognizes that you're there and recognizes that you're there to meet its needs. And there's this relief that happens. There's this, and you can do anything to meet the child's needs. And then once the child's needs are met in the memory, it really, really does a lot for the emotional body. It really does a lot for the psyche. And then there's this bond between you and this child that you've been ignoring and running away from because you've been scared your whole life of facing how you really feel. And then you come back, you're like meeting this kid's needs after living and experiencing fully what this kid is actually feeling. This is called attunement, like really, really understanding by experiencing yourself what this kid is feeling. And this kid is a part of you, right? So we've been like running from ourselves and like running towards positive focus, like quick, make it stop, when it's just like a kid in a traumatic moment that like probably just needs a hug and needs you to defend him or her or them and like, improve their situation. And then there's this process. You have a safe haven in your mind. A lot of inner child work is like this, but you go to the safe haven, you kind of check for any fragmented parts of the kid, and then there's a cleansing process in the safe haven that we go through, and then there's an opportunity to stay in the safe haven for the child or merge with the adult self. And then it's a super integrative experience. Even if they just want to hang out in the safe haven and they don't want to join you in your life, there's still this powerful connection that's there. And you're like, wow, through connecting with this kid and understanding what this kid needs, that's made a lasting impression and an alchemical transformation with my own understanding of my own needs, my own understanding of my own value, my worth, my, all these things that inherently hold us back. But when we try to approach it from the intellect, it doesn't really work as well. We have to really approach it from the emotional body and from what the nervous system remembers, because that's when the releasing gets to happen and the partnering up, and then that when that feeling comes up again, it's like it actually doesn't come up again in the same way. Or if it comes up again, it means there's another memory where that happened. And sometimes if you've been through chronic abuse in childhood, it can be like a lot of coming back to memories, because there were a lot of moments where you split off. But what ends up being magical about completion process is when you address when was the first time, it tends to clear things that happened after that. And that is not for me to know, it's for you to know with your own psyche. And this process is, like I keep saying to people, this is a process of you becoming the authority on your own experience, which is your birthright, which is all of our birthrights. And a lot of us were really confused about that and robbed of that experience and felt pressure to feel something other than we actually felt in order to survive. So when we do this work, we are reinstating my friend Julia Friedman, who is an amazing completion process practitioner, said to me once, there is no such thing as an error in an emotional guidance system. And I'm not sure if that initially came from Teal Swan. I mean, it's definitely a Teal Swan vibe, sort of a statement. But when she said that to me, I was like, wow. And I pass that on to everyone I can. There's no such thing as an error in an emotional guidance system. And this is really, really important, guys, because when we feel like, oh, I'm just feeling sad, I'm like, why can't I just get my shit together and like stop being so sad all the time? It's like, Joe Dispenza people would say like, well, you're addicted to sadness. Maybe. And maybe I'm addicted to sadness because there's been a lack of resolution in the original trauma that happened. And if I go into it intentionally, not feeling wallowing, not as a victim, but with the intention of loving myself in a deeper way, I don't think that you can go wrong with that, guys. I think if you're doing CP, you're doing intentional completion process, you're doing intentional realigning of and regenerating of your parts with each other. And that wholeness can't mess you up. It might mean that you make some priority and value adjustments, in your life. Like, what is it that I really need? I thought I needed this and I thought I wanted this, but actually this is what I really want and need. Your emotional guidance system is telling you something for a reason. So it's to go into the sadness so that you can really soothe it and let it move. I know that I've already been talking for so long, but there's so much to say in this context, guys. I mean, just how we as a society have this aversion to grief, and a lot of people don't let themselves feel pain, sadness, because it requires safety and vulnerability to release. It's the element of water, grief and sadness. It's like to really let things move and to let them wash through you. It's being in a very gentle, fragile place where you're just kind of shaking and crying and feeling the hurt that's actually there, and most of us shift down into anger and rage to protect those feelings, because in the wrong context, those feelings can make us feel powerless over abusive people, places, things, discompassionate, unattuned, gaslighty, narcissistic, sociopathic personalities, all kinds of reasons why you wouldn't want to cry or express weakness or vulnerability in front of some people. I know I've definitely been shamed for, by people who are supposed to love me for having feelings. And so it's taken me a long time to ungaslight myself, to allow myself to be like, no, like I'm sad right now and I need to grieve right now. And that is completely fucking correct. And so it's because I'm able to do this so much with my own inner child that I'm able to hold this space for other people, because I understand what that experience is, where you're just like, I don't want to go there because everything about my conditioning is telling me that I'm weak or bad or wrong or lying, if I'm expressing my feelings. And it's like, no one gets to say that but you. You're the only one who gets to say whether or not you're telling the truth and being truthful with yourself. So, this is a long ass video. Thank you for watching till the end. I know maybe some of you have been interested in more of like, what is this completion process and what the fuck are you doing in your coaching? And it came up with some friends last night, and I was like, you know what? I really want to make a video about this and let you guys know more about, what is the completion process and why? Like, why do this? Like, why be into it? And I really just feel like when these things, when you don't have anxiety with your partner anymore, you're like, literally, that was because of this thing that happened when I was 7. Like that was like my original example, right? But it can be anything. Then you stop being triggered by the thing, and then the thing stops showing up. Like literally, like the situations don't go like that anymore because you've cleared it, you've gone into it, and you've resolved it at its root. Not trying to cure symptoms. Like, what do I do for my anxiety? It's like, well, ask your anxiety. When was the first time I felt so anxious? Or like, I'm anxious because I'm trying to fucking bullshit myself into thinking that I'm not in pain. And I'm feeling bad and I'm feeling guilty and I'm feeling wrong and invalid for being in pain. Like, I shouldn't be in pain because that makes me a pussy. Like, men, right? Or some women too, By the way, like, again, I'm a spiritual feminist, and like the word pussy like should be a word of empowerment and honor and respect, just for clarification. But yeah, like just like toxic masculinity narratives, essentially, not to be confused with healthy masculinity, but really like not allowing ourselves to feel, right? And like gaslighting ourselves and telling ourselves there's something wrong with actually like really being in pain when shit was rough, when you were a kid. And this is maybe the first time that you've had the inner and outer resources, safety and support to actually be able to feel those things. So it's okay if there's a backlog. It's okay if it takes a while. It's okay if you're messy as fuck. The North Node's been in Cancer for a long time. And the North Nodes of Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn are all in Cancer. Like, feeling is our way to the future, guys. Feeling is the way to, like, release the past. Really, like, let it wash out of you. and make space. That's the purpose of grief, is to dissipate the old stuck energies. Just wishing whoever's watching this and whoever finds this video for you to honor yourself, for you to honor your emotional guidance system, for you to honor the way that you really feel, and to really explore this work. You know, there's the book, The Completion Process by Teal Swan. If you want one-on-one coaching and space, someone to hold space for you and to kind of help you through. I know the first few times I did completion process, I really needed a facilitator. It was really healing and therapeutic to have a compassionate, you know, third party, as in like me, my inner part, and like a neutral third party, to like help me just make that connection and realize the ways that I was chronically self-abandoning, chronically going up into my head and not being able to stay in my body. You know, these things, you know, a completion process practitioner can provide. And when you have that mirror of like, yeah, feel that, it's totally good that you're feeling this right now. Yes, become a puddle on the floor. You're doing great. You know, like it can be really great. And I really like holding that space for people to feel authentically. It's actually a gift to me, and it's always a beautiful experience for me. So if you would like a completion process session, usually I'm doing it in the context of 6 weeks of coaching, and I'm thinking about kind of maybe doing some one-off sessions if that's something that might meet a need for you. Let me know, and send me an email and let me know a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to work together. And yeah, keep it real. Happy equinox, and see you next time.